This episode of Hack Circus is supported by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and simple to build your own professional website and online shop. For a free trial and 10% off, visit squarespace.com and enter the offer code CIRCUS at checkout. A better web starts with your website. Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of Hack Circus, the podcast. Hack Circus is also a quarterly magazine and event series. Check out hackcircus.com for more information about the project. This episode is all about magic, and I met up with a magician called Mike Stoner. We had a really good chat really about the business of magic. How do you make a living as a magician these days? What does it mean to be a magician? So we just met up in a cafe. It was quite busy actually, and we got some good looks off people as he did some tricks on me.
As a magician, when you start out, it's like a hobby. You're enthusiastic and you just love doing it. You're entertaining people and hopefully amazing people. But when you want to take it to the next level and actually make money out of it, make it your living, so it's going to pay the mortgage, that's when the marketing, the advertising side takes over. It's much more, to be a successful magician, you've got to be better at marketing than you have at doing the magic. And my background was in advertising. I used to work for Yellow Pages, which was completely destroyed by the internet, and so the main thing that I did, alongside learning the magic and getting better at it, was getting my website out there, getting it to appear as high up as possible on Google, and learning the hard way what kind of advertising worked and what didn't, and getting people's enthusiasm. Personal recommendations you can't beat, but there's only so many people you can get to that way. And you put adverts in magazines and newspapers, and you think, well, this has got a readership of 100,000. Surely one of those people is going to get in touch and book me. And you find that they don't. Yeah. It's that frustration. You know there are people out there who are organising events and would love to have some entertainment there. You can provide it. You can haggle over the price, but it's getting those two people together when the internet has wiped out so many of the old ways of advertising. As I say, Yellow Pages is gone. Magazines and newspaper adverts, classified ads, the thing that people used to do all the time 20 years ago, just doesn't work. But it's that whole thing of how do you get people to voluntarily connect you, not buying links and adverts, but people who want to connect because you're interesting and you do something a bit different. But I never knew this area would be such a large part of my job when I was learning my card tricks.
Interesting, isn't it? That like with any kind of self-starter, I suppose, it's the first thing that you need to learn. Like, yeah, as you say, don't worry too much about your own skills and the thing you think you're trying to sell. Just learn how to sell. It seems to be the most important.
A few years ago, I was helping people stop smoking. I was using hypnotherapy to help people stop smoking, and I had an interview on a local radio station. During the course of the interview, which was about 15 minutes, I got 100 hits on my website, just from people who must have heard it and got in touch. So it is amazing the power of the media, and then just finding the right person, getting the right contact, but it's such a struggle to get there. It takes so much time.
What is the story that you kind of, if you're selling yourself or trying to get on the radio and things?
I got on the air about when I was helping people stop smoking was I noticed that National No Smoking Day was about 4 weeks away. And I'd heard this DJ on the radio talk about the fact that he smoked and he wished he could stop. So I just got in touch and said, this is what I do. I can stop you smoking. And we've got National No Smoking Day coming up. You say you want to stop. Wouldn't it be perfect to link it all together? So you're giving them an opportunity on a plate. What doesn't seem to work is like something completely out of the blue saying, I'm a magician, I'd love to be on the radio, how about it? That's going to go in the bin. But you find something which links up, that links to an event, something else that's going on in the world or the media, and then they'll bite your hand off because it's giving them something which they probably start to think about, and they go, oh, this solves my problem.
Yeah.
And that's the best marketing, something which solves a problem that someone's pondering. And that's where, on the magic side, I don't just say to people for their wedding, I'll come along and be a magician at your wedding and it'll be great. What I have to do is create that need first. So I might pitch to someone, you're having the meal at 6 o'clock and then you've got a DJ at 8 o'clock. What are the people going to do for those 2 hours in between? I've got to create that need, that almost that worry. Oh yes, that's going to be a bit, nothing's going on there. And then I can solve the problem. I'll come along.
Make them anxious.
Make them anxious. Potentially, yes. Make them think, oh dear, what are we going to do? But it's that classic thing with marketing. People only agree to or buy things because they want them. And if that want isn't naturally there, you've got to help create it in the nicest possible way. Yeah. Nothing better than being at someone's wedding, being part of their big special day.
Yeah.
It's a lovely part of the job.
It sounds like you must have done loads of them as well. You said you did 2 last weekend, 2 coming up tomorrow. It's just non-stop. So what are they mainly people that approach you through Googling wedding magician, or is it something where you meet people who look like they might be getting married and go, well, you two look like you're getting on well?
I do a lot of, you have these wedding fairs.
Oh,
so
yeah,
wedding fairs, in the low season when I'm not, haven't got too much work on, I go along to a wedding fair, have a stand, set out my magical bits and pieces, and as people are wandering around, they'll be looking at dresses and cakes and all this kind of thing. And it's my job to persuade them that having a magician would be a good idea, because everyone thinks, oh yes, the bride needs a dress, and we need a cake, and we'll have to hire a car, we need a venue, we probably need music in the evening, but I'm an optional extra, so it's my job to persuade them to have me. And often I might be stood next to another table who are selling something bizarre. These days, a lot of people have things like birdcage-shaped centerpieces that they put in the middle of the table, or chair covers to make the chairs look nice.
These leotards you can get for chairs now, as my friend put it when she was frustrated by the whole industry. Have you seen these leotards? Yeah.
And they cost a fortune. And you see someone saying, oh yes, we'll pay £400 to have all of the chairs covered in this way, so they're the right colour to match our wedding theme. And then they come to me, and I show them the magic, show them I can give them something amazing that their guests will all love. And then they're haggling about the price, and they're going, oh no, we don't want to spend that much. And you think, well, you just spent £400 on some chair covers. No one's going to... The day after the wedding, I guarantee no one will come up to you and say, those chair covers were amazing.
Yeah.
But the magic is something that, like 6 months later, you meet people and they'll open up their wallet or the handbag and they'll take out something that you did something magic with, and they go, I carry this around with me and I show people this thing. And it's like the magic, if you've done it the right way, can really touch people. Yeah. And that's another lovely part of the job.
Do you feel people are in a more receptive sort of state of mind when they're at a wedding? Or do you find that they're probably a bit drunk and happy and like, I don't know, is there a different sort of mentality?
There is, yes. I do magic at weddings, parties, corporate events, trade shows, charity events, all this kind of stuff. It's my full-time job, so I want to get as much in the diary as possible. And yes, you're right. At a wedding, everyone's happy, they're relaxed, they're much more receptive to things. It's a good chance to hand out your business cards and get follow-on business. The worst thing, to be honest, is probably the corporate work. Unfortunately, you often have people there who will be focused on, let's get drunk at the company's expense, and it's almost like an us and them. You're the magician there to entertain people, but at a corporate event, it's more, let's see if we can catch him out. Let's see if we can, that kind of thing. It can be that much more of a challenge. Where a wedding or someone's birthday party, people are there to have fun and relax. And especially if you're at a wedding and you say, oh yeah, the bride and groom asked me to come along and show you some stuff. Yeah. They can't really go, oh no, well I don't like the bride and groom. I don't want to see it. Whereas a corporate event, if you go, well, the managing director got his PR to book me to come along, there's not that same kind of emotional connection where people want to enjoy it in the same way. And the same thing with trade shows, where you're on someone's stand to attract potential customers over. That can be a lot of fun, but that can be a long, hard day, because you'd normally do a couple of hours at a wedding, but a trade show, you might be standing there for 8 hours constantly trying to entice people in with magic, and then once you've got their interest, you've then got to hand them over to the salespeople to actually do the the hard sell of whatever product they're selling on that stand.
Is it possible to be a good magician and not be a good salesman?
Probably not. It's you're right. You've got to link those two things. In fact, when you first start out in the magic industry, the hardest thing to do isn't to learn the magic. It's to be able to just go up to strangers and grab their attention and do something amazing for them that they'll enjoy. In fact, when I meet other magicians who are just starting out, I'll say to them, forget about the magic, forget about practicing stuff, your card tricks and stuff at home. If you want to be a successful magician, tonight, just walk into a pub, look for the noisiest, rowdiest table, go up to them, and just start talking to them. Don't do any magic, but just go up to them and start talking to them, because as a magician, that's what you have to be able to do. You can't, if you've been booked for an event, you can't look around and go, they look a bit loud, they look a bit drunk, they look a bit troublesome, I'll only entertain the nice people over here. It's your job, you've got to be able to entertain everybody.
I suppose magic has a bit of a reputation for being a bit cheesy maybe, or something that you can find in it's very broad, but actually I think it's one of the most difficult forms of entertainment, because you have so many potential locations and so many different audiences, and you might be on a cruise ship, or you might be in the streets, and you might meet anyone and have to somehow win them over. Whereas, I don't know, if you're a club singer or something, you know basically what your audience is going to be every time you perform.
That's a very good point. I mean, I play guitar in a band as well, and we turn up at the venue, we set everything up, and we play the songs. And as long as someone doesn't pull the plug out or throw something at us, we do pretty much the same thing every time. But the magic is completely about the interaction. I never really enjoyed the magic which was someone standing in front of people and going, look, aren't I clever, everyone look at me. So the big stage acts I was never keen on, or anything where there's just someone showing off effectively. Everything I did was about interaction, because I like people, and I like that element of not knowing what's going to happen next. And when you do magic for people, someone could absolutely love it, someone else could hate it and try to, as I said before, try to catch you out. Some people are scared of it, and other people are just intrigued by what you do, and they try to see how those skills that you've apparently got through the magic could apply in everyday life. But the most interesting thing, and the thing which is that you find the more you do magic, is how similar everyone is. You imagine, everyone imagines, well, I'm an individual, I've got my own way of doing things, but you do certain magic tricks often enough, you hear the same comments, the same responses, you get the same reactions from people, and you could almost predict it. And in fact, a lot of my mind reading is almost genuine mind reading. It's not using tricks and gimmicks. I actually do mind reading because I've done my routine so many times. I know what people are going to do, and I know what thoughts they've got in their head, and therefore I can apparently influence or predict them. So it is genuine mind reading in that sense. A quick example, I do a routine involving colours and getting someone to just think of a colour. And to begin with, it just seems like a random process. But if you look at the person you're interacting with, and you've maybe done a couple of other tricks to build a bit of rapport with them first, you can then quite reliably guess what kind of colours they're going to think of. If it's a teenage lad, they're very often going to go for red. That comes up a lot.
Right, interesting.
Teenage girls will often go for pink. Older women more likely to go for white or yellow, or women in their 30s generally go for purple. If someone's going to try to catch you out and you keep asking them to think of a colour, they will then think of black, because black is not really a colour. It's the absence of colour, and that's that kind of thing. You can see the cogs going in their brain. So you look at someone, you see if they're male or female, what age they are, you make a slight guess about maybe their intelligence level, their social class, things like that, and then you can make a good guess at what colour they're likely to think of. And once they've done that, if you've got that right, you can then get them to do it a second time, and you can have a good guess at what they'll go to next. Very few people go for green the first time, but lots of people go for green the second time. And these sort of, or if someone thinks for a certain length of time, if they jump into a colour straight away, especially for men, they very often go for red or blue. There's often like a sporting or a footballing connection that influences their choice.
Yeah.
But if someone thinks for a long time, they'll go for a more unusual colour. They'll obviously often go for something like orange or brown. And it's just interesting because, for me, it's fun to see if I can work out what they'll go for.
Yeah. Can I just confirm that, we did this exact thing last time I met up with Mike in a sort of dingy nightclub like TFI Fridays in the middle of the day. And yeah, I think you pretty much guessed it every time with the colours. And I just couldn't work it out at all. It was very disconcerting. It's a really weird experience as the recipient of that. Do you find that you get... I know magicians do stuff on each other all the time as well. Do you find that when people do telepathy stuff on you, you find it unnerving or surprising that they manage to succeed, or does it not work on other magicians?
That's a very good point. At the Magic Circle, when you see people swapping ideas and talking about new tricks they're developing, there's two different ways you can go. You can either think, how on earth did they do that? I must find out. And you really want to know. You don't want to be beaten by it because it's professional pride. But there's also that thing of, I love to see a trick and have no idea at all how it's done, because that takes me back to why I first got into magic and reminds me of what the people I'm performing to are experiencing. Because as a magician, you get to know how things work. You can often see a new magic trick that's being marketed to magicians and you think, yes, I can see how they've done it. You can work it all out. And there's no sense of wonder. But that sense of wonder is what it's all about, because magic is an interactive art. I don't think someone sitting at home just practicing card tricks in front of the mirror is really being a magician.
Yeah.
They're just being... It's fun for them, but magic's the interaction. It's like a comedian. You can say you're a comedian, but until you stand in front of people and they actually physically laugh, you're not a real comedian.
This episode of Hack Circus is supported by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and simple to build your own professional website and online shop. The easy-to-use drag-and-drop tools, responsive designs and 24/7 customer support teams based in New York and Dublin mean you can create a beautifully designed website for as little as £5 a month. This includes a free domain name when you sign up for a year. When you decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure you use the offer code CIRCUS to get 10% off and to show your support for Hack Circus. No credit card required. Start building your website today. HackCircus.com.
Yeah, I love that though. I mean, that's one of the things that I really like about magic, is that I can't work it out. And that's how I feel about even quite basic, straightforward magic. I think I still can't really tell how it's done. I feel like there's a block sort of in my mind going, no, I want to believe this. I'm not going to try and work it out. I'm just going to try and enjoy it.
Well, that's what we want to hear. That's what we're always looking for.
Unzipping your magic bag.
There's a playing card face down on the table.
Yes.
And
there is.
In a pack of cards, 52 cards, hearts, clubs, diamonds and spades. So, if you ask someone to think of a card, the two that come up all the time, women very often choose the Queen of Hearts. Men often go for the Ace of Spades. Those two cards, Queen of Hearts, Ace of Spades, come up all the time. So, I'd like you and the people listening to this podcast to think of a playing card. Just think of one, but not, as I say, not the Queen of Hearts, not the Ace of Spades. Try to go for one that's not obvious and predictable, one that I could easily guess. You just let one come into your mind. So you're now thinking of one, and the people listening to this should also be thinking of a card. So, what card came into your mind?
The Two of Diamonds.
The Two of Diamonds. And everyone who's listening to this will also have a card in their mind. So, Two of Diamonds. Red cards do come up a lot more often than the black cards. There seems to be a psychological thing that people tend to go for those.
Right.
So, if you change your mind to one of the black cards, which card would you go to?
Eight of Clubs.
Eight of Clubs, yeah. And again, there's a whole psychology about whether people go for red cards, black cards, odd cards, even cards. But everyone at home has got a card that they're thinking of. Now, the card on the table, can you say what card that is?
It's the three of clubs.
It is the three of clubs. Now, some people listening to this will have been thinking of the three of clubs.
Yeah.
And at that point, they will go, how on earth did he do that?
Yeah.
Now, I wouldn't present a magic trick like that, but playing the odds, and people do often go for certain specific cards, playing the odds so that when someone goes, how did he know that? That was the card I was thinking of.
Yeah.
The impact on those people is so huge that the lack of impact on the other people is more than equalled out. Now, obviously, if I was actually doing this in a live performance, what I wouldn't do is something like that where the cards there and I'm completely committed. I would have various different ways of branching off, and but it's worth it for the people who are actually get that hit. I've steered people away, as it worked with you. I said, don't go for. I mentioned the Queen of Hearts and the Ace of Spades, so people will tend not to choose a heart or a spade, and that's true. You chose a diamond and then a club, and again, the Ace and the Queen, which I've mentioned, are both high-value cards, so people tend to go for low-value cards, which, like the first time you did, for a 2. So you can tend to steer people towards certain choices. And one of the key things that you're looking out for, and all magicians tend to do this, are the laugh points, because when someone laughs, their attention is distracted. So if you're going to do something sneaky, the time to do it is when the person you're performing to laughs. That is the point where you can get away with all kind of things. But you can also do things which are just incredibly bold. There are certain techniques you learn quite early on as a magician, which when you read them or see them demonstrated, you think, that would never ever work. How could you ever get away with that? But if you do something unbelievably bold, people, even if they see it, they can't quite... They think, no, surely you can't have done that. And you can get away with an awful lot of stuff just by doing something that's just so so outrageous that people can't believe that you would do it.
It's almost like there's like several different kinds of magic going on at any one time. I was thinking about when I went to a mind reading show and I got pulled up onto the stage and was sort of involved in the show a bit, and as a result saw how some of it was done and found it kind of disappointing but also sort of exciting and flattering that I was being trusted to be involved on this level. I enjoyed it in a different way, but I was also slightly being manipulated because he'd probably chosen me thinking, well, she's gonna like this, I'll get her up, she's gonna get off on being involved in the show somehow. Like she won't like, spill the beans. But I wonder if that, because there do seem to be risks involved, especially in using audience members. Like you just kind of trust that they're going to go along with it and play along, or feel flattered to be involved or whatever, rather than just go, oh my god, this is how it works, and just tell everyone.
That is a very good point, and that is one of the skills that you develop over time, choosing the right volunteers and participants. In fact, one of the first magicians who I met when I was getting into this whole area was Andy Nyman, who's done lots of work with Darren Brown. And he has a great thing that he says, when you're performing for an audience and you have to do something where someone's going to have to maybe read something out of a book or look at something fairly small, always choose someone who's wearing glasses. Because if you choose someone who isn't wearing glasses and they come up on the stage and you give them the book and you say, choose any word out of the book and I'll read your mind, and they say, I can't read it, hang on, and they have to go back out into the audience to get their pair of glasses, that is not a good way to do the show. So always choose people who are wearing glasses. If someone is going to catch you out, you have to either try to be careful to sideline them slightly so they don't derail the tricks you're doing, or you turn the trick round to make them the hero of the moment. Because a lot of tricks can be presented two ways. You could do one as, aren't I amazing, I can read your mind, or you can flip it round the other way so that person is somehow able to predict what you as a magician are going to be able to do. You give them the power and you flip the trick backwards. So if you've got someone who's a bit of a Jack the Lad, you might do that. And then once you've got them on side, then that's great for the rest of your act. The one thing you don't want to do is make the magical mind reading a challenge. Because as soon as someone sees it as a competition, right, I'm going to see if I can beat this magician, then you're onto a real losing streak. When I was starting to do the magic, the thing that I did was I would perform things without making a big fuss about it. I would try to make amazing things happen when I was around. So there's a local coffee shop that I used to go into a lot, and I wouldn't go in there and say, I'm a magician, everyone stop drinking coffee and look at me do a card trick. I'd go in there, I'd have my coffee, but then I would make just one strange little thing happen. So I might maybe have a packet of sugar on the table, and when they come over to collect your empty cup, I would make that packet of sugar just move, just half an inch, just make it move. And I wouldn't go, oh look, I am going to make this happen. It would just happen, and they would sort of catch it out the corner of their eye and go, what happened there? What was that? I love doing that. Just make it that when you're around, people don't know quite what's going to happen next and what you're going to be able to achieve.
You do it to left the act?
Yes, and to left the act, something a bit different. Very few of these in the world. I think there's only one other, maybe two others in the country, and a handful in America. And to left the act is basically two magicians who give an apparent performance of telepathy, the ability to communicate information using the power of the mind. So in the act, you've got one magician is the transmitter, the other is the receiver. So one magician will be on stage blindfolded, genuinely blindfolded, unable to see what's going on. The other magician, the transmitter, goes out into the audience and gets random people to take objects out of their pocket or choose a word out of a book or write a word down. And then this transmitter person has to secretly send that information to the receiver on stage to reveal to the audience. Now, there's no use of any electronic devices. It's all using various methods of coding. And the whole secret is how you can hide this code in everyday conversation and action so that people can't pick up on it. The most famous act doing this in the past were called the Piddingtons, and there's videos on YouTube of them back in the 1950s doing this act. One of them's a great example, one of them's on an aeroplane and the other one's in the radio studio, and yet they're able to communicate information while everyone's listening in to what they're broadcasting. And the whole thing is making the code, as I say, hidden enough that people can't pick up on it. And once you've developed a code, the best thing to then do is to build a second code on top of the first code. You're hiding layers within layers, and it is the difficulty is that it's basically a new language. The two magicians, transmitter and receiver, need to both have learnt the language and be able to flawlessly communicate information in this way. So it does take an awfully long time and a lot of dedication, and the two of you have to really get on, because if you fall out, that's the end of your act. We can try one other quick thing.
Yeah, these giant cards have appeared.
Giant cards. Now, we have these symbols here.
Yeah, there's a star and a square and wiggly lines and... Yeah, okay. Standard sort of
so I'll give those to you.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to try to do is predict what you're going to do. So mix those five up a bit so that I can't tell which one's which. Yeah?
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to predict your actions.
Right.
Now, if you do something and then I tell you what it is, that's not as impressive as what I'm going to do here, which is predict your action before you do it.
Right.
So, five symbols. I'm going to put one down here on the table. Now, I'm trying to predict one that you're going to choose. Put one down, face down in front of you. Okay, so now take a second one. Put the second one down. Okay, and the third one. Put the third one down. Each time I'm putting one down before you do.
Yeah.
Now, you're left with two cards.
Yeah.
Can you hold them out like this? So, over on this side, I've got a circle. What have you got over there?
I've got a circle.
You've got a circle. On this side, I've got a square. And you've got a square. Interesting. And we've got the three on the table. If you just pick up the three on here, we've got... well, we can turn them over. You see, I've got a star and some wavy lines and an exact match.
Oh, well done.
With me predicting in advance what you're going to go for. A lot of the magical creativity comes from just looking at a situation and coming at it from a different angle. It reminds me of something way back when I was at university. There was this guy had gone home for the weekend, and he'd left his room sort of shut, and we were always playing tricks on each other. So near the university there were a lot of grass snakes in the area. So what we did was we went out and we got 3 grass snakes, and we hid them in his room, so that when he would come back, there were these 3 snakes in his room. So that's a fairly straightforward prank. But there was a level of genius added in that we put a note on the bed in his room, and the note said, "We have left 4 grass snakes in your room." And it's that which turns it from just a prank into a completely evil psychological...
Being this way and thinking in this way all the time, does it make you a bit sort of... Maybe in a way it makes you more open to the world because you see opportunities to be creative with everything. Does it also kind of make you more paranoid or more suspicious or more... I don't know, do you find that it affects you psychologically in an unusual way?
That's a fair question, yeah. It does in a sense. I'll give you a good example. Something which I did when I first started getting to magic, and I still do now, which is in almost any everyday situation, I'll see if I can subtly influence people's behaviour. Let's say we're up in London. Let's say you're at the waiting on an underground platform, and you might be near the entrance where people come out onto the platform. You can try and work out where you need to stand to influence whether people are going to go left or right when they come out onto that platform. It's an interesting way to do things. You just look at people, you think, there's 2 escalators there. Where would I need to stand to make them get on the left escalator rather than the right escalator? Or everyone's got a sense of personal space. When I'm on a train or in a carriage, where would I need to sit to make sure that the next person who gets on will sit in that seat over there? And it's amazing how predictable people are. And the more you do this, the more you can realise that just by using your body language, personal body space, where you actually stand, whether you're looking at someone or looking away from them, it can make these little effects on what they do, where they stand, where they go. And the more you do that, it becomes a bit of a habit that you think, well, let's see how I can influence these people, and who's going to go where I want, who's going to not, who's going to push past me, who's not going to. It's just an interesting way to take something as boring as waiting for a tube train into something quite interesting. But now I say it does sound a bit weird. I think it's Frank Zappa, actually, who said a great song, you could listen to a great song thousands of times and you wouldn't get bored of it. But if the song's got a video, you might watch the video 20 times, but you wouldn't watch it 1,000 times. You wouldn't watch that video over and over again. Something in the audio medium is that much more personal, and it does actually have that connection, partly because something audio, you can do other things as well at the same time. You haven't got to sit there, concentrate on it, switch off the rest of your body to look at something, video, but when it's audio, you can be doing other stuff, and it just gets absorbed into you. And with podcasts, the interesting thing is it's becoming the new thing that people recommend.
Like, something that's nice about podcasts as well is that it's so they're so easy to do, and it kind of shows that, like, despite all the technology and all the CGI and all the amazing effects we can create, it's a bit like magic. Like, you don't need something that's incredibly high spec and highly realised. You can just do something that communicates the message in almost the purest way, just the most simple way, and that's often the most, I think, people enjoy the most.
A good podcast is like being with a group of interesting friends. Yeah. The interesting friends you haven't got in real life. you can download them for nothing. Actually, the reality of it is quite hard to make it interesting enough that people are going to listen continuously, which is something that you're very good at, and a lot of the best podcasts can do.
Certainly with the stuff that I do generally, the things that I do that are successful are really a direct result of the fact that I have a very high barrier for things I find interesting. So I won't just go, well, this show's about technology, let's interview some Shoreditch nerd who's done a startup. No, let's find someone who actually hacked into a Prestel terminal in the 80s or something, which is what we did. Find the hacker, find that person who actually did that thing, because otherwise I'm not interested. Well, I think we should probably wrap up, because I've been talking to you for about 2 hours or something. No, thanks so much for coming and talking to us in this quite noisy cafe. Hopefully it's all right.
Great, touching on lots of different areas. Thank you very much.